Hi everybody, welcome back to Ox Talks. It is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. Bringing the week to a close here. Hope all of you have had a healthy and prosperous week and looking forward to a nice weekend. Well, I'm scratching my head as to why the stock market continues to rise in the face of what appears to be across the board bad economic news. And as by way of example, I'm not going to go in detail about the jobs numbers today, but the October payrolls missed estimates. They rose only 150,000 as employed workers plummet by 348,000 people. The article on The Hedge today, which I wanted to draw your attention to a particular part of it, says, as employed workers plunged by 348,000, the number of unemployed workers surged by 146,000, an indication of which the true labor market is headed. It says it wasn't just payrolls that disappointed, so did the unemployment rate, which rose to 3.9% from 3.8% versus expectations of an unchanged print. Since recent lows in April, this measure is up by 0.5 percent points, effectively cementing the next recession per Sam's rule. So the only reason I can think of in looking at all of the news releases today that the market rose over 200 points, the Dow was up 200 something points. CNBC at the closing bell said this was the best week for stocks in the year. The only reason I can see that happened is that the markets are looking at this bad news as good news, meaning the hopium continues that the Fed will digest this information and determine that the labor market is substantially weakening or weakened, and either continue to pause the rate hikes or reverse course and start reducing interest rates. For the markets, it's all about looking down the road and seeing when can they start expecting lower rates and more free money. It's a twisted setup. We all know what's going on. We can all see through this. Look, talking about the unemployment rate and focusing, I saw an article come out that references specifically California and the massive layoffs now underway prior to the holidays. It says massive layoffs in California are now underway prior to the holidays, according to the latest WARN data. Under the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act, WARN, an employer with more than 100 full-time workers must provide a 60-day notice before laying off 50 or more people in a single site. It says California is seeing growing number of figures of upcoming layoffs in the state until the end of the year, mainly through mid-November. Well, we're already in November 3rd. The company with the biggest job cuts in California prior to the holidays will be FedEx, where more than 400 people will lose their jobs. In August, 170 employees were affected in Indiana, 220 in Pennsylvania, and 280 in Texas. 94 and 79 FedEx employees will lose their jobs in Colorado and Ohio for the month of November as well. So far, California remains the number one state with the most layoffs in the country. The state has had 62,674 layoffs this year across 1,114 businesses. In second place is Colorado, followed by Illinois, Texas, Washington, New York, New Jersey, Florida, Michigan, and then Georgia. And it says below is a list of businesses that filed WARN notices of upcoming job cuts in California this year. FedEx, 405 job cuts by November 15th. Sunoco Products, 292 job cuts by November 1st. Shaw Industries Group, 283 job cuts by November 20th. Matheson Flight Extenders, Inc., 257 job cuts by November 13th. Lear Group, 250 job cuts by November 11th. Those are people's lives. Those are people's livelihoods. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, if you're in California, it's getting hit, in a disproportionate way. But it doesn't matter where you are. If you have an employer, if you have a boss, please do what we've been talking about this weekend. Evaluate where you're at. Evaluate if you have the ability to start your own business and try to become your own boss. Try to control your sole source of income, or at least some alternate sources of income for you and your family. I saw this article on The Hedge as well, came out today. World's biggest shipper cuts 10,000 jobs, warns of subdued global trade. It says the shipping giant AP Moller-Maersk reported a slide in profit and revenue for the third quarter, forcing the company to take a defensive position by eliminating upwards of 10,000 jobs, as falling container rates and waning demand batter the global shipping industry, which could last through 2026, it says. However, the shipper maintained its full-year guidance at the lower end of the previously stated guidance. Quote, if you look at the order book and what is going to come over the next couple of years, I think we're probably settling in for a very subdued and pressured environment for 2 to 3 years ahead, it says. Chief Executive Officer Vincent Clerc told Bloomberg TV's Mark Cudmore on Friday morning. It says Maersk, which controls 17% of global container trade, started reducing its workforce from 110,000 in January and will be below 100,000 by the end of this year. This will result in a $600 million cost savings. Clerc said about 6,500 positions have already been eliminated. And it says Maersk is, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is considered a bellwether of global trade. So it's slowing down, folks. Global trade is slowing down. Why? Well, demand's slowing down. Consumers can no longer afford these products, and they are not coming off the shelves with the free pandemic relief money that was flowing in 2020 and 2021. It says Goldman Sachs analysts issued a cautionary note to clients suggesting the global shipping industry could be in a more prolonged downturn, and recommended selling Maersk's shares. This is all a cautionary signal for the global economy. And then I saw this article, which I think dovetails not nicely, it's depressing, but it addresses this issue. It says bankruptcies spike as consumer confidence falls to 5-month lows. This was out of The Hedge also today. And the key takeaway in this article says the U.S. court system has published their annual statistics for bankruptcies from September of 2022 through September of 2023, so about the last year, and says the numbers aren't good. Total bankruptcy filings for the nation rose by 13% in 2023, with 433,658 cases. Corporate bankruptcies increased by 30% this year with 17,051 cases. Bankruptcies had fallen sharply, it says, in 2020 as the pandemic precipitated the $8 trillion stimulus package. Helicopter money and PPP loans stalled the advance of a growing trend of economic decline in the U.S., but helped trigger the stagflation crisis as a consequence. Despite the massive fiat money injection, the bankruptcy train is gaining momentum once again. So, going into, late 19, early 2020, the economic situation was looking very, very grim. Obviously, the pandemic derailed it. The helicopter money was dropped from the sky, and all it did was it basically it kicked the can down the road. Now we're seeing bankruptcy filings uptick in a substantial way. People are broke. Businesses are failing. This is very, very serious. says expectations for next year are not encouraging. Global analysts are predicting a fall of zombies in 2023, zombie corporations, in 2024, as rising debt costs slowly squeeze corporations and small businesses alike. Businesses facing high debt costs after years of low rates will have to compete to secure enough cash in the biggest corporate refinancing rush seen for years, just as banks rein in ahead of stricter capital rules. And guess what? That cash is not going to be available. Those lines of credit, unfortunately, are being cut and are going to get cut. Liquidity is drying up. So if you're going to start a business, or if you have an existing business, it's very, very important that you pay down the debt you have, reduce the amount of debt you're taking on. If you're starting a new business, cash flow that business to the extent that you can. Keep your overhead low. Don't dive in with both feet. Start slow and develop the business and cash flow it as you go. The worst situation you could be in is getting into debt and then having to go try to refinance that debt when rates are going up. So with that all being said, what can I tell you? What can I suggest that we all do, let's say over the weekend? Well, all of us should be working on our physical fitness. We all should be taking the time to get some exercise in, eat healthy, and get a lot of water in. We need to be sharp and focused. And when you're out of shape and sitting on the couch, those are not consistent with bettering yourself and trying to excel in an environment where there's a lot of pain going to be happening to a lot of people, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity. You're either going to be one of those able and positioned financially and emotionally and physically to take advantage of the opportunities, or you're going to be on the other side. I'll tell you which side I'm going to be on. So I hope that you all will also think about working on your food storage. I always look at weekends as a good time to kind of decompress, sit back without the phone ringing and emails coming in, and say, okay, take stock of where you're at. Can you add to your food supplies over the weekend? Can you add to your water supplies? Can you go refill a couple of those propane tanks that are sitting in the garage to have those in rotation? Work on your home garden a little bit if you can. Maybe start to try to produce some of your own food. These are things that I don't think there's any downside to giving some thought to. And let's just continue to watch this circus act unfold into next week. Gold started off with a really, really nice gain this morning. I think it's going to finish up, $6 or $7 today. I think the market's just closed. I haven't checked it. But look, gold in the face of these rising rates, gold is holding in there. It's basically sitting at $2,000, give or take. Silver's well over $23 right now. Yes, they got the 10-year yield down today a lot. They battered it back, so that's going to help to buoy gold. But I like where gold's sitting right now. I think over the weekend I'll cover some information I saw on the central banks and the current gold hoarding around the world. I'll save that for one of these shows this weekend. With that being said, if you're enjoying the content, please like, subscribe to the channel, spread this to your family and friends. Let's get the word out. There are many other channels doing the same thing. And look, as far as I'm concerned, and I watch other channels too. I take all the information in. We all should be learning more and more every day. Keep your head on a swivel this weekend. And lastly, I'll address the security. I read something about another 5,000 or 10,000 migrants coming over the border, pushing up into Mexico this weekend or in the next coming days. Look, we have to really be careful with watching security. Don't let your guard down when you're sitting at home at your dinner table. You have to be prepared if someone kicks in that front door. That's really not being paranoid, it's just being prudent in my opinion. So also take stock of your security and how are you going to protect those that you love and the things that you've worked hard for. I hope you all have a very safe and healthy weekend. I will talk to you soon. Bye.